And having thus chosen our course, without guile, and with pure purpose, let us renew our trust in God, and go forward without fear, and with manly hearts. I have here stated my purpose according to my view of official duty, and I intend no modification of my oft-expressed personal wish that all men everywhere could be free. Character is like a tree and reputation like a shadow. The shadow is what we think of it. The tree is the real thing. 77 years ago our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Be sure you put your feet in the right place, then stand firm. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. I am a slow walker, but I never walk back. I am in favor of animal rights as well as human rights. That is the way of a whole human being. I believe it is an established maxim in morals that he who makes an assertion without knowing whether it is true or false is guilty of falsehood, and the accidental truth of the assertion does not justify or excuse him. I do the very best I know how, the very best I can, and I mean to keep on doing so until the end. I have always found that mercy bears richer fruits than strict justice. I have never had a feeling politically that did not spring from the sentiments embodied in the Declaration of Independence. I'm a success today because I had a friend who believed in me and I didn't have the heart to let him down. I want it said of me by those who knew me best that I always plucked a thistle and planted a flower where I thought a flower would grow. I will prepare, and someday my chance will come. In law, it is a good policy to never plead what you need not, lest you oblige yourself to prove what you cannot. If you are resolutely determined to make a lawyer of yourself, the thing is more than half done already. In giving freedom to the slave, we assure freedom to the free, honorable alike in what we give and what we preserve. We shall nobly save or meanly lose the last best, hope of earth. In very truth he was, the noblest work of God, an honest man. Let no young man choosing the law for a calling for a moment yield to the popular belief. Resolve to be honest at all events, and if in your own judgment you cannot be an honest lawyer, resolve to be honest without being a lawyer. Let us at all times remember that all American citizens are brothers of a common country, and should dwell together in the bonds of fraternal feeling. Peace does not appear so distant as it did. I hope it will come soon, and come to stay, and so come as to be worth the keeping in all future time. My great concern is not whether you have failed, but whether you are content with your failure. Our reliance is in the love of liberty which God has planted in our bosoms. Our defense is in the preservation of the spirit which prizes liberty as the heritage of all men in all lands everywhere. Passion has helped us, but can do so no more. It will in future be our enemy. Reason, cold, calculating, unimpassioned reason, must furnish all the materials for our future support and defense. Sir, my concern is not whether God is on our side. My greatest concern is to be on God's side, for God is always right. The world has never had a good definition of the word liberty, and the American people just now are much in want of one. We all declare for liberty, but in using the same word we do not all mean the same thing. There is no grievance that is a fit object of redress by mob law. Things may come to those who wait, but only the things left by those who hustle. Those who look for the bad in people will surely find it. Towering genius disdains a beaten path. It seeks regions hitherto unexplored. A farce or comedy is best played. A tragedy is best read at home. A house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe this government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free. I do not expect the Union to be dissolved. I do not expect the house to fall, but I do expect it will cease to be divided. it will become all one thing or all the other. You can fool all the people some of the time and some of the people all the time, but you cannot fool all the people all the time. Adhere to your purpose and you will soon feel as well as you ever did. On the contrary, if you falter and give up, you will lose the power of keeping any resolution and will regret it all your life. All I ask for the Negro is that, if you do not like him, let him alone. If God gave him but little, that little let him enjoy. Always bear in mind that your own resolution to success is more important than any other thing. And in the end, it is not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years. Whatever you are, be a good one. Any people anywhere, being inclined and having the power, have the right to rise up and shake off the existing government and form a new one that suits them better. This is a most valuable, a most sacred right, a right which we hope and believe is to liberate the world. As I wouldn't be a slave, so I wouldn't be a master, this expresses my idea of democracy. Better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak out and remove all doubt. Common-looking people are the best in the world. That is the reason the Lord makes so many of them. Discourage litigation. Persuade your neighbors to compromise whenever you can. Point out to them how the nominal winner is often a real loser in fees, expenses, and waste of time. As a peacemaker, the lawyer has a superior opportunity of being a good man. There will still be business enough. Elections belong to the people. It's their decision. If they decide to turn their back on the fire and burn their behinds, then they will just have to sit on their blisters. Every man's happiness is his own responsibility. Folks are usually about as happy as they make their minds up to be. For people who like that kind of a book, that is the kind of book they will like. He has a right to criticize, who has a heart to help. Human nature will not change. In any future great national trial, compared with the men of this, we shall have as weak and as strong, as silly and as wise, as bad and as good. Human action can be modified to some extent, but human nature cannot be changed. I am not bound to win, but I am bound to be true. I am not bound to succeed, but I am bound to live by the light that I have. I must stand with anybody that stands right, and stand with him while he is right, and part with him when he goes wrong. I am rather inclined to silence, and whether that be wise or not, it is at least more unusual nowadays to find a man who can hold his tongue than to find one who cannot. I can make a general in 5 minutes, but a good horse is hard to replace. I cannot make it better known than it already is that I strongly favor colonization. I care not for a man's religion whose dog and cat are not the better for it. I desire to so conduct the affairs of this administration that, if at the end, when I come to lay down the reins of power, I have lost every other friend on earth, I shall at least have one friend left, and that friend shall be down inside of me. I claim not to have controlled events, but confess plainly that events have controlled me. I don't like that man. I must get to know him better. I have a congenital aversion to failure. I have stepped out upon this platform that I may see you and that you may see me, and in the arrangement I have the best of the bargain. I happen temporarily to occupy this big white house. I am living witness that any one of your children may look to come here as my father's child has. I have been driven many times upon my knees by the overwhelming conviction that I had nowhere else to go. My own wisdom and that of all about me seemed insufficient for that day. I would rather be a little nobody than to be an evil somebody. I have not permitted myself, gentlemen, to conclude that I am the best man in the country, but I am reminded, in this connection, of a story of an old Dutch farmer who remarked to a companion once that it was not best to swap horses while crossing streams. I know not how to aid you, save in the assurance of one of mature age, and much severe experience that you cannot fail if you resolutely determine that you will not. If we have no friends, we have no pleasure, and if we have them, we are sure to lose them and be doubly pained by the loss. I never encourage deceit, and falsehood, especially if you have got a bad memory, is the worst enemy a fellow can have. The fact is, truth is your truest friend, no matter what the circumstances are. If I am killed, I can die but once, but to live in constant dread of it is to die over and over again. In giving freedom to the slave, we assure freedom to the free, honorable alike in what we give and what we preserve. We shall nobly save or meanly lose the last best hope of earth. I distrust the wisdom, if not the sincerity, of friends who would hold my hands while my enemies stab me. In regard to this great book, I have but to say, it is the best gift God has given to man. All the good the Savior gave to the world was communicated through this book. It may seem strange that any men should dare to ask a just God's assistance in wringing their bread from the sweat of other men's faces, but let us judge not that we be not judged. The prayers of both could not be answered. That of neither has been answered fully. The Almighty has His own purposes. Labor is prior to and independent of capital. Capital is only the fruit of labor, and could never have existed if labor had not first existed. Labor is the superior of capital, and deserves much the higher consideration. Leave nothing for tomorrow which can be done today. Let every American, every lover of liberty, every well-wisher to his posterity, swear by the blood of the Revolution never to violate in the least particular the laws of the country, and never to tolerate their violation by others. Most folks are about as happy as they make their minds up to be. Let us have faith that right makes might, and in that faith let us to the end dare to do our duty as we understand it. My father taught me to work, but not to love it. I never did like to work, and I don't deny it. I'd rather read, tell stories, crack jokes, talk, laugh, anything but work. Love is the chain to lock a child to its parent. Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. No man has a good enough memory to be a successful liar. Public sentiment is everything. With public sentiment, nothing can fail. Without it, nothing can succeed. No man is good enough to govern another man without that other's consent. I say this is the leading principle, the sheet anchor of American republicanism. Surely God would not have created such a being as man, with an ability to grasp the infinite, to exist only for a day. No, man was made for immortality, tact, the ability to describe others as they see themselves. The ballot is stronger than the bullet. The demon of intemperance ever seems to have delighted in sucking the blood of genius and of generosity. The greatest fine art of the future will be the making of a comfortable living from a small piece of land. The love of property and consciousness of right and wrong have conflicting places in our organization, which often makes a man's course seem crooked, his conduct a riddle. The one victory we can ever call complete will be that one which proclaims that there is not one slave or one drunkard on the face of God's green earth. There are no bad pictures. That's just how your face looks sometimes. This country, with its institutions, belongs to the people who inhabit it. Whenever they shall grow weary of the existing government, they can exercise their constitutional right of amending it, or their revolutionary right to dismember it or overthrow it. This is a world of compensations, and he who would be no slave must consent to have no slave. Those who deny freedom to others deserve it not for themselves, and, under a just God, cannot long retain it. We can complain because rose bushes have thorns, or rejoice because thorn bushes have roses. Upon the subject of education, Not presuming to dictate any plan or system respecting it, I can only say that I view it as the most important subject which we as a people can be engaged in. When you reach the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. You can tell the greatness of a man by what makes him angry. What is to be, will be, and no prayers of ours can arrest the decree. When I do good, I feel good. When I do bad, I feel bad. That's my religion. You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today. What is conservatism? Is it not adherence to the old and tried against the new and untried? You think slavery is right and should be extended, while we think slavery is wrong and ought to be restricted. That, I suppose, is the rub. It certainly is the only substantial difference between us. The United States government must not undertake to run the churches. When an individual, in the church or out of it, becomes dangerous to the public interest, he must be checked. I leave you, hoping that the lamp of liberty will burn in your bosoms until there shall no longer be a doubt that all men are created free and equal.